Hello children and welcome to the session today. In the previous session, we learned about substances around us. We understood how different substances are separated. Now in this chapter, we are going to learn another very interesting thing. We are going to understand how things, the substances around us change. So I'll give you a simple example. If you allow an apple to be kept outside for about 7-8 days, what is going to happen? You are going to see that it is rotting. There is some green growth on the apple. So what is this? A change is taking place. Similarly, when your mother boils the milk and she adds some curd to it, she leaves it outside. After 8 to 10 hours, what happens? The milk has set into curd. A change has taken place. Right, children? So this is what we are going to discuss in chapter number 6, Changes Around Us. We are going to understand about reversible and irreversible changes, physical and chemical changes, changes upon mixing of different substances, and what are the examples of these changes. Now, let's begin by understanding what are spontaneous changes and what are non-spontaneous changes. Now, spontaneous changes are the changes which take place on their own. And non-spontaneous changes are the changes that require some energy input. Right, children? Now, what are the changes that happen around us? First is a change in shape and size. So, you take a whole sheet of paper, you can tear it. There is a change in the size and shape, but there is no change in the chemical properties. Even if you tear a paper in 100 pieces, each of that 100 pieces is still going to be paper. Then there is change in temperature. We all know when it is very cold, what do? We rub our hands together. What happens? Our hands become warm. So there is change in temperature. We keep shifting our furniture inside the house. We keep shifting things inside the kitchen. What are we doing? Again, change in position. In all these changes, till now, we have understood that there is no change in the property of the substance, right? Now let's talk about a change of state. So something that we have been studying right from grade 1 is that when you keep ice outside, it becomes water. When you boil water, it becomes vapor. So what is this? Solid to liquid to gas. So what is this? Change of state. This happens because of heat. Now, if I were supposed to cool, the reverse is going to happen. If I cool vapor, it is going to change into water. If I cool water, water is going to change into ice. So, what is happening? Again, a change of state is happening. Change of color. When we discussed about the apple and the growth on it, what was happening? A change of color was taking place. If you leave the bananas outside, they become black in color. So again, what is happening? A change in color is happening. So some of these changes can be reversed. For instance, we discussed about the change of ice to vapor. So ice to water to vapor and vapor to water to ice. This is a reversible change. But a banana becoming black is an irreversible change. Let us understand more about these changes through this video. Changes around us can be reversible or irreversible. Changes that can be reversed easily to obtain a substance in its original form is called a reversible change. Some example of reversible changes are changing of ice into water on melting and changing of water into ice on freezing. The folding of paper to make a boat. The size of the paper remains the same before and after folding. Water changes into water vapor on heating but can be changed back into liquid water by cooling. Some examples of irreversible changes are mixing of flour with water to make a dough. The flour cannot be changed to its original form. The boiling of an egg. The raw egg cannot return once it's boiled. burning of wood to get ash. Wood cannot be obtained from the ash. Thus, we can say that an irreversible change cannot be undone, but a reversible change can be. An irreversible change is a permanent change, but a reversible change is a temporary change. So, what are irreversible changes? Irreversible changes are like curdling of milk, burning of wood, growth of a plant and animal, digestion of food. Now, these may be physical changes. For example, camphor upon heating evaporates into water. When cooled, it condenses into solid camphor again. Dissolution of salt or sugar into water is again a physical change. Regain of shape by rubber by being twisted is again a irreversible physical change. Cutting of cloth, boiling of water, all these are physical changes. Now children, another example that we see in change is when heating takes place, we know that railway tracks may change shape because of thermal expansion. Thermal expansion means expansion due to heat. So, heating is an example of physical change. Freezing of milk to make ice cream is example of physical change. Now, let's come to chemical changes. So, what is happening in chemical change? For example, H2 plus O2. What is it going to give? It is going to give H2O. So, these two things that are reacting together are known as reactants, and the product that is formed at the end, water, is the product. And this entire equation is known as a chemical equation. So, every chemical reaction will have a chemical equation. Even rusting, for that example, what is happening in rust? Iron is combining with oxygen in the air plus water vapor to form rust. Now, rust is reddish brown in color. And what happens? For example, if we take an example of an iron bar, the topmost surface is exposed to air and oxygen and water vapor. So, what is happening? Layer by layer, rust is going to form. This rust is, as I told you, reddish brown in color. This rust peels off automatically. So, by the time a few years pass by, this entire piece of iron will be stripped off layer by layer due to rust. So, this is rusting. Next, cooking. So, if you take the example of an egg, in how many ways can you cook it? You can boil it, you can poach it, you can even make an omelette out of it. But is it possible to convert it into raw egg again? No, it is not. So, cooking is again an irreversible reaction. Rusting of iron nails, cooking of food, a burning candle. All these are examples of chemical changes because a new product is being formed. So, children, in this chapter, you have learned in detail about how substances change. What are irreversible changes? What are reversible changes? What are physical changes? And what are chemical changes? So, hope you are ready to attempt the questions at the back. Thank you.